Hello everyone, welcome back to Chess Master Journey. So today we're going to look at another King's Pawn opening which is known as the Evans Gambit. So let's take a look at this Gambit and what is the position for this. So first we'll start with E4, E5 and F3 and C6, BC4 and BC5 and then pawn B4. So this is the position for Evans Gambit. So now we're going to look at what are the variation or what are the moves that can be done to further develop the game under this Evans Gambit. Okay, first let's assume perhaps this bishop, the black bishop had captured the b4 pawn, so bx b4. So this is known as the Evans Gambit accepted variation. Okay, so to continue the game, you can move the c pawn to c3 square. So it will be attacking the bishop here. So c3, and then for the black, we go for the bishop to a5. So bishop to a5, and now as you can see this position in this screen, so this is known as the Evans Gambit mainline variation. Okay, mainline variation. So to further continue the game, for the white, it can move its pawn, the d pawn to d4 square. So now for the black, the pawn can go after the white pawn, ex d4. Okay, so this is known as the Evans Gambit Pierce defense, this position. Okay, this is the Pierce defense. And now for the white, you can go for castling. You can go for the castling. And for the black, you can develop the minor piece, which is the g knight to e7 square. G knight to e7 square. Okay, now as you can see this position, now this is known as the Evans Gambit Miser's defense. Okay, so how we can further continue the game is the white perhaps can use the knight to move to g5 square, and for the black you can push the d pawn to d5 square, and now here e pawn captures the d5 square, ex d5, and then knight you can bring to e5 square. So now in this position, you can use the white queen to capture the d4 pawn, qx d4. And now you can develop the f pawn for the black. So f pawn to f6 square. So this is how you can develop the pieces in the Evans Gambit if you use the bishop to capture. You use the bishop to capture the pawn just now. Okay, right now. So we already looked what will happen. What are the variations we have? We use the bx b4 move. So let's say we go for some other move. Let's say we use the bishop. We don't capture, but we go to b6 square. So this is known as the Evans Gambit declined variation. Okay, it's declined variation. So how we can further develop the pieces are, you can move the a pawn to a4 square, and then the black a pawn to a6 square. Then we can use the knight to c3 square. Okay, so as you can see the position, this is known as the Evans Gambit, the declined variation, and also now it became the Showalter variation of the Evans Gambit. So Further, we can continue the game by moving your knight to f6 square and the white knight to d5 square. Okay, so this is how you can move your pieces under this declined events gambit declined variation. Okay, I hope all of you are staying with me. So let's just refresh on the events gambit position. So e4, e5, and f3, and c6, bc4, bc5, and b4. So now let's take a look to some other moves. So perhaps we use the pawn, d pawn, to move to d5 square. So this is known as the events gambit Hain counter gambit. So in this position, the e pawn goes after the, you can either use the bishop or the pawn. So let's say we use the pawn, ex d5, and now the knight goes after the pawn, nx b4. So for the white move, we can go for the castling. So for the black, you can use the knight to move to f6 square. Now here in this position, the white knight can go after the e5 pawn and next e5, and the black knight b knight can go after the white pawn and bx d5. And now here you can move the d pawn to d4 square. So since this is in danger, so the bishop can go to e7 square. So this is how you can develop your pieces under the Hain counter gambit of events gambit. Okay, so let's take a look at some other moves and some other variations. Do we have some other moves? So let's say we use this bishop. Just now we see what will happen if we capture or we go to this b6 square, right? So now let's say we use this bishop now to go to e7 square. So what happens if the bishop goes to e7 square? So when the bishop moves to e7 square, so the white probably could choose the b pawn to b5 square, and the knight can move to a5 square. And since the bishop is in danger, so the bishop either can go to b3 square or also e2 square. So let's say we used to move to b3 square. Okay, so now the knight captures the bishop and the pawn. A pawn goes after the knight, ax b3, and the white pawn, sorry, for the black, you can use the d pawn to d6 square. And the white pawn c pawn to c4 square. So this is how you can develop under this position. So let's take a look at some other positions. What else we can move? What are the pieces we can move? So now we'll look at the bishop also. Let's say we used to move to d6 square. Bishop to d6 square. So now in this position, so since all the minor pieces is out, bishop and knight, we can go for the castling. And for the black, we can go for the knight to f6 square. And now can go for the rook, centralize the rook, re1. So for the black, now you can go for the castling. Alright, so this is how you can develop your pieces under this position if you move the bishop to d6 square. So that's all, a short overview on the events gambit for today. So just to remind all of you out there, life is like riding a bicycle. To keep yourself balanced, you must keep moving. So everyone keep moving, and all the best to all of you out there. Take care. See you all in the next lesson. Thank you. Bye.